Hello, it's the evening of July 18th, 2024, and it's been 2 weeks since I've made a video, and quite a lot has changed or grown up in the last couple of weeks. And I've been gone for the last week, and while I was gone we had 5 inches of rain in the 5 days that I was not here, and so things are growing pretty well. I just noticed there's deer down the way here. They are getting pretty bold, and I see them in the daytime quite often, so we may run into them in a little bit. The Rose of Sharon bushes are starting to bloom. Monarda is kind of around peak bloom. You'll see lots of echinacea. The daylilies are kind of finishing off. There's some milkweed. Fruit-wise, the brambles are basically done. The dewberries might still have a few, and the wild blackberries and the cultivated blackberries are probably just starting. The raspberries have finished. So yeah, here we have Monarda. You see cup plant is just about to flower. There's the first few cup plant flowers, these yellow ones here, and those are 5 to 8 feet tall this year, which is pretty good for this site. If you have a better site, they can grow 10 or more feet tall, but here I'll take 6 feet if I can get it. Wild sennas here are in full bloom. See some native bumblebees working on those maybe in the second shift here. Yeah, it's getting toward nightfall here in about an hour, so not going to be peak time for pollinators, but anyway, I thought I would just do a video when I was able to do one. I'll show you this Monarda didyma over here. I only have a few of these going in this garden. I have some more of them next door, but they're a beautiful species. Don't know if they're as prolific as the common Monarda fistulosa, but we'll see over time. So you'll see my dumb shadow probably a few times in this video, unfortunately. Apologies for that. So got a lot of pokeweed here that's flowering and starting to set fruit. And my Illinois everbearing mulberry graft from last year, and it's kind of hiding among the catalpa here. I did just visit my friend Michael's garden the other day in Wisconsin, and that's who I ordered these scions from. And he has one of those growing in his greenhouse that has massive fruits. They were, God, probably 1.5 inches long maybe. They were really big. Never seen mulberry fruit that large in our climate. So that was cool. Apologies for the claptrap vehicles driving by. These white blackberries are kind of finished, just about finished. And there's some kind of a purple raspberry hybrid hiding in here somewhere, but I don't really want to go digging for it. So we may miss that this year, but it's not really anything special to me. Just soft, mushy fruit that's not particularly good. So as we get into this wildflower area, we're seeing a lot of action. We've got, what do they call this thing? Gray-headed coneflower, maybe? I'm kind of forgetting. It's been about a year since I've seen it. And we've got Anna's hyssop over there, the tall spikes. Of course, the Monarda. It's kind of a pretty time of day to see this stuff with the low angle sunlight. And we got some bumblebees working here. You will see hummingbirds and hummingbird moths on some of these flowers, the Monardas, some of the ones that have the right shape of a flower. So yeah, it's quite a nice time to be in the garden this time of year. Long days, lots of rainfall, and sunshine. It's made for a good growing season so far. I think this is the best, most evenly moist growing season I've ever seen at this garden. I don't know how many inches of rain we've had in total, but it's considerable. Definitely more than usual, and more evenly spaced out than usual. Usually we get into drought in the summertime. Even if it doesn't rain for a couple of weeks, it gets real droughty on this site. So we haven't really had much in the way of drought this year, just maybe a week here or a week there where it was a little dry, but nothing where things were about to start dying off like they usually do. So yeah, sorry for lingering here, but this is a nice little section. Most of the rest of the garden doesn't have this kind of flower action. Here's some white currants, and actually at my friend Michael's house, or Mikal, I think this is how he pronounces his name. He had a white currant that was huge, or the berries were huge. They were like, I don't know, 1/4 inch or more in diameter, and they were really good. So he gave me a cutting of that, and I'm going to try to root those and see if I can get them going. And I think I skipped over, there's a little red currant over here. The currants are kind of, I'd say they're about done. But this little red currant still has a bunch of fruit. And I think I mentioned this before, but the nice thing about currants is they hold on to their fruit for several weeks, and it's pickable for a long period compared to some other things. They might get a little mushy. Let's see if I can get one off here. This is not a particularly large one, but yeah, currants are cool because they will hang around for a while. That one's pretty good. It's not as tart as the red currant that I had from Oikos before. So yeah, this area, excuse me, was pretty much a wildflower mixture from Prairie Moon Nursery, and it was basically exposed sand, subsoil, and I put down a little layer of compost and a layer of leaf mold, or maybe compost, then I scattered the seeds, and then I put the leaf mold maybe on top of that as a little bit of mulch, maybe a little straw. And that was probably 4 years ago, I want to say, 3 or 4 years ago. I'm looking for these, whatever these berries are over here. I need to probably stake this thing up. It's a pretty good berry. Maybe the deer have already gotten it. Well, I should do a walkthrough before I do this video so I can know what to look for or not. Anyway, I don't see those berries now, but it's an elongated purplish red raspberry thing. Deer pressure is super heavy this year. You can see these things which are less than knee-high are New England aster. That's a favorite of the deer. So unfortunately, they have been clipping those down for the last few years and keeping them about knee-high all season. I think last video I pointed out the little blue stem. Right now it's quite blue looking. Now it won't stay that way for long. It'll start turning kind of golden brown pretty soon. And this is big blue stem over here, this taller stuff, and it's already sending up some stalks that will have seed heads on them in a few weeks. So this taller stuff in the mid ground here is big blue stem. And it's become a bit of a pest, weedy species in this part of the garden. So I'll try to focus on what's interesting or positive, not so much on negative things, because there's always negative things I could point out. This ground cover thing here, that's a downy sunflower, and they are about to flower, but it's going to be another week or two. But you can see in places where little flower buds are just about to pop. And there, that's a grafted gumi from last year. This is a grafted, Asian pear from last year. I noticed on my nanny berry yesterday, something, I don't know if some animal or pest did something with the fruit, but all the fruit was on the ground for some reason, and it's not fully mature yet. So there's no fruit left on the bush, and I don't know why it turned blue prematurely. Maybe there's a problem. I mean, this tree has some kind of borer problem. You can see a lot of the branches are affected by it. So I don't know, I'll have to check my other nannyberry bushes and see if they've still got their fruits, because I think most of them should be green still and not purple or blue. So we've got false sunflower here, Heliopsis. This scene has changed over the years. Used to be a decent pear tree there. That's totally dead. There's some rosinweed, volunteer hazelnut, some tansy over here, more monarda, of course. More cup plant that shows up. Oh, looks like the deer ate off the top of this. That was a monarda didyma. And there's some daylilies. But species kind of come and go over time. They do their own thing. You plant something it's not that happy and it kind of fades out over time and something else comes in and takes over. Nice tall mullein, I've got quite a few of those. Daylilies are just wrapping up, and you can kind of see some of them have a quality where they're kind of white, fading to yellow as they peter out for the bloom. Over here I've got a apple tree that I've been eating a few apples off of already. They're not totally ripe, but they are red. You can see they're not huge apples, they're fairly small still. Some of them are a little bit bigger than that. But up top there's quite a few, and they're pretty good sized apples. And that is not the, this one is not the Golden Delicious that the main part of this tree is. So this Jonagold has a stupid amount of fruit, just ridiculous amount of fruit. So none of that's going to size up unless I really get in here and thin it out. Growing fruit trees is a pain in the ass. Trees get big and it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's more effort than it's worth, I think, a lot of the time. I like a wild tree on the roadside. It's growing without any care or intervention. This tree, whatever it is, it's always got a useless, tasteless apples on it. Looks like the deer are eating that liatris that I planted up by my little pond here. My nursery area, I haven't had many visitors, so I haven't given away much stuff or sent things off. Here's another didima that the deer haven't clipped off yet. So I've still got a few plants here. I've got some things I need to plant out. Oh, this bucket was full almost at the top, and I feel like I just dumped that out a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, a lot of rainfall here, and been nice. My wife didn't have to water that much when I was gone, which was great. She's not used to coming over here and watering and doesn't know exactly what to water. Especially in this forest garden, the vegetable garden is more self-explanatory. So here in this bed, nothing looks too great. Everything looks chlorotic or yellow. Those grapes look quite bad. I need to dump some compost tea on those, or some worm castings or something. But these are some currant cuttings that are doing great. These elderberries are so-so. Another currant. Got some more currants over there. Those are all from the same guy that I just visited in West Lima, Wisconsin. He's a good guy. The hazelnuts have a hell of a crop this year. A lot of them are just bent over with the weight of the crop. These willows are getting some pretty color on them. This bramble, this black raspberry, which was freakish last year in that it had its fruit about 2 months late. They were in kind of August, September time rather than June, early July. And I don't know what the reason for that was, but this year they're back on the normal schedule. So I think I potted a few of those up and gave them away to people with the idea that they were a late blooming or a late fruiting thing. And I maybe made a liar out of myself because they're not consistent this year. So this is one of my huge Monarda patches. It's a former vegetable garden that's just been kind of overrun with Monarda. And it's all got powdery mildew for the most part, which it typically gets every year. That doesn't seem to affect it too badly. It's more cosmetic than anything. The willow is getting clipped regularly by the deer. The tune tree is putting on some good growth. And I should show you, I've got this wild fox grape growing over all this stuff, but it's got a bunch of fruit this year. So that's cool, because these are good fruits, and these get bigger than like the riverbank grapes do. And I could or should probably bag these. But damn, that's a lot of grapes for this vine. So that's really awesome. I'm hoping to get some. They taste like a Concord. I think the Concord grape was bred from these, so it's quite comparable. If you like a Concord, which I do, you know, having grown up in this area, we grow a lot of Concords here. So I like that flavor. I like the real grapiness of it, the foxy quality, whatever they call it. The Aralia elata is growing pretty good this year. It's putting on some good diameter and some good height. It's kind of hidden away back here behind this box elder, weedy box elder that I've let grow. And what else? I've got a rugosa rose here that's hiding in the mix. deer eat those. And here's another different kind of grape. That might also be a fox grape, but I think it may be a different individual. And I've got a weed walnut over here. Here's an nannyberry. Let's see if this has any of its berries clinging to it still. Here's a couple late black raspberries, but we're pretty much past the season here. And these are probably going to have a few problems. Yeah, and it's interesting, you know, I divided plants that were growing in one area and moved them around. And even though they're the same genetics, these are small, they are fruiting at different times, like a week or two apart. So that is interesting. Yeah, these nannyberries are what you would expect this time of year. They're green and they're on the bush. They're not falling off. I'm seeing a lot of, what do you call that crap? Horse nettle, this shit, which I hate. One of my least favorite weeds. It spreads by rhizomes. And that's showing up everywhere. It's pretty annoying. It's real thorny. It's a pain to deal with. I'll just walk over here quickly and show one blueberry plant that it's kind of in mid-harvest. I've picked some off of it. I probably should show my pawpaw tree that still has a couple pawpaws on it, just because they may not stick around for the whole season. Yeah, this is not good lighting for this. So anyway, this is a blueberry bush, and there are some blueberries on there, but looks like most of the ripe ones are gone. I picked some the other day. So this cascade of Monarda is all done. The flowers are all off that. So that's an earlier one. So yeah, it's cool that different populations of the same plant flower, you know, weeks apart from each other, even if they were all sourced from the same nursery or whatever, or seed stock. Okay, so this pawpaw here does not have fruit as far as I can tell. There's one over here that does, and this is actually the one that had ambrosia beetle damage last year. And maybe that's what sent it into survival mode or something and made it want to have fruit. I don't know. That's just a silly theory. But here we go. Pretty good size on those. I mean, I'd be happy with fruit that size as the final size, but it's still got a month or two. Let's see, what is it? It's mid-July. Yeah, probably 2 months of growing. So, you know, a lot could happen in 2 months. They may not stay on there, but if they do, that's going to be super cool to have my first pawpaw fruits and ostensibly my first persimmon fruits, if those hang on for a while, from my own plants that I've been waiting for, you know, 13, 14 years for in some cases. So we've got an early goldenrod flowering, which is not my favorite hallmark of the season, but yeah, whatever. I had a good sized sumac that fell down here. You can see the ripe berries. This is a staghorn sumac, and these are brittle. They don't tend to live very long, but these berries are pretty nice looking still. They haven't got all tatty looking and nasty like they will get after a while when the bugs and the rain get onto them. So there's another good pawpaw tree there. There's a good one over there. Here's a small one in front of me here. I'm going to try not to point the camera into the sunlight. I'm sorry. I have to walk backwards. So another little pawpaw there. This area is just kind of wild. There is a pawpaw I almost forgot about back there. I think I tried grafting that one last year and it didn't really work out. Pawpaws aren't quite as forgiving as some other things. I have got a few that have taken. Here's some high bush cranberries here, and I actually did get one from my friend, and he says it's a good one, an edible one. It doesn't have fruit that stinks like somebody's nasty feet. So I'm hoping maybe I'll put that back here with the other ones, put a cage around it to keep the deer off of it, and hope for the best. But that's straight from the horse's mouth. This is a gumi grafted onto autumn olive last year. This is carmine. The graft union doesn't look that great, but it's growing. And of course we've got false indigo growing out into the pathway here. I need to snap some of that stuff off and use it as mulch. I should show these Luther Burbank, they're called snowbank white blackberries here. I think I might have showed these in the last video, but they're kind of ripening now. There's a lot of them and they're too small. They're kind of fussy and they get bug problems easily, and when they do, you can sort of see easily because of the color. You know, if there's like a bad little cell or something in there, it shows off pretty readily. So yeah, these are more of a novelty than anything. Not going to win any flavor awards or productivity awards, but it's something curious to show people who visit the garden. So I will leave them, but not real excited about them. Little pawpaw graft from last year that's trying to grow out of its tree tube. No, my good hazelnut here has got some, looks like it's going to be a good year for it. The husks are sizing up pretty well. They'll be bending these branches over to the ground here soon. You can see this one's already halfway there. Yeah, that's a good one. And I did a couple new grafts back here. These are pear. That's an Asian pear of some kind. It's got a couple little leaves that are trying to grow and something's eating them. So that's the graft. Maybe it looks like a cleft graft, and yeah, it's breaking through the tape. And this graft here looks like a whip and tongue graft. It's also the same variety, Korean giant, which is one that I had and it died. Wish I could know what was eating those leaves though. That's kind of a bummer. Okay, and yeah, with all the wind and rain we've had this season, several of my super vigorous grafts I whacked a lot of the top growth off of in order to not have it blow over and blow the graft out. So this one is Ichiban. That was a whip and tongue graft. That looks like it's growing. And this one also maybe a cleft graft. The rubber band's about to break, but it's got some little growth happening, so hopefully those branches will take. And I will show these little gummy grafts. These are growing pretty well. I got a tree tube around one of them. You have to kind of direct the growth sometimes and get your hand in there because it wants to like bend over and grow sideways. But that's growing well, and then this one also is growing pretty well. And there, that looks like a bark inlay graft. That's Catherine's Find number 2 is the name of this variety of gummy. Ordered from a gal online in California, I think. So as I go back here, see what kind of deer activity we run into. They're huffing and puffing at me all the time when I come back here. The chestnuts are done flowering since the last video, and so you might start seeing a little bit of burr initiation. And also the newer flush of chestnut leaves looks way better. So goddamn, look at all this stuff from my finger out grew this season. That's got to be 2.5 feet of growth. And the first leaves got pretty chewed up by some kind of bugs, but the newer leaves look pretty good. So hopefully, you know, well, the rest of the season will be okay. But yeah, pretty tremendous growth on some things. Need to come and mow again. It's been only about 10 days or less than 2 weeks since I've mowed, but with all the rain and warmth, the growth is pretty intense. And these long days, it's, you know, we've still got 16 hours of daylight or something this time of year. So that makes a difference too. There's a little apple graft with sending out a leaf or two there, and I've got another one down there that's also doing the same. So we'll see if those take. It's Canadian strawberry or something from my friend Mike Doherty. Here's a rosinweed bloom. So some of the rosinweed the deer have eaten down, and some of them they're letting go. This apple graft, some big apples on this former crab apple. The natural fruit on it is like this little stuff here, and then, you know, there are some much larger fruit that I've grafted onto it. And that one, this is a different variety on this branch. This is called limber twig something. Kentucky, I don't remember what kind of limber twig. But yeah, the overstory here is black locust, and there's also a few sumacs, winged sumac, and there's a couple of weedy things like wild black cherry over here, box elder. So I'm removing these trees as needed every year or two, removing some of the overstory to give more sunlight to my chestnuts, which are the main crop back here. Yeah, but leaving these black locusts has been a good strategy so far, because for instance this chestnut here is going to be super attractive to deer to rub on this fall. That's like the perfect diameter. They will love that. So I put tree guards on them. That's what those are down there. But then if you leave some black locusts around that are a similar diameter, they seem to go for those pretty well. So like here's one that got hit last last fall, and really a lot of black locusts, that one got hit. And they're growing in diameter pretty quickly, but having these alternative trees around helps distract the deer a little bit from your precious trees. It can help save them. I mean, it's no guarantee. Deer could hit everything and anything if they have a mind to, but yeah, it just makes it so that your trees are not the only thing out there for them to choose. You know, you've got some other expendable stuff. The colors look pretty weird because of this evening low light and the warmth back there. Hopefully it'll come through okay on the computer. So yeah, the winged sumacs are about to flower, and this will be a real pollinator party once this kicks off in a couple of days. You can see they're just about to open. In this area last year it was audibly humming like somebody was running a drone or something. That's how loud it was. And that was all just bee activity back here. So these shrub or thicket species, I guess is what Solomon Doe calls them, they're really key for pollinators, you know, because flowers come and go, but there is just a mass of nectar and pollen in these shrub species, you know, American plum, sumacs, other things that spread by rhizome and make little colonies. Some cup plants here. Yep, they do have some water in their leaf margins. I put my hood up because the mosquitoes are coming out. Now I realize I'm pretty lucky here with mosquitoes. I visited a couple of friends' places in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and holy shit, I couldn't even stand to be outside for 2 minutes at their places because the mosquitoes are so bad. So I'm really thankful that I don't have that problem, at least to that extent. Illinois everbearing mulberry. And here's some little fruits, but the ones at my friend's tree, they were probably 3 or 4 times the size of these. They were really impressive. So once this heals over and gets going a little bit better, maybe I'll have bigger fruit, but we'll see. A nice another graft of gumi. This is carmine. I'm trying to read my own writing here. Carmine. So this is in a little bit of shade here. We'll see how it does, but it's growing pretty well. Chestnuts look like they're doing pretty good after that initial poor showing with the rough looking leaves earlier in the season. You can see that this one's a little beat up looking. And there too. This is the timber chestnut, and damn, this thing's got some real girth to it now. At breast height, this could be blight that it's fighting off, you know, from this injury here. I was going to prune it more. I want to prune, you know, like this lower branch off and this lower branch off. I may do that this winter. I don't know. It seems to possibly invite trouble. But at breast height, that's got to be 10 inches, I'd say, at least in diameter. So great, wonderful tree. That thing was planted 12 years ago. So that's almost 1 inch per year in some. So yeah, this tree here has got some leaf problems. It probably would like to have this wild black cherry removed and give it some more light. This chinkapin, these are setting, you know, there's lots of little burrs that have started forming. So we'll see how many got pollinated. Again, this tree here didn't have as many last year that were filled. What's weird about chestnuts is they will make burrs even if they're not filled, and they'll seem to hold on to them kind of into maturity or all throughout the season for some reason. I don't know what advantage that gives the tree, if it's photosynthesizing or what, but looks like none of my chestnut grafts are taking so far. That's a chestnut graft, and that's Royal Mark. It's Dick Winkle's cultivar, but they were pretty small. Cyanwood. There's a groundnut vine. Planted those all over the place. They were small cyans, and they weren't in the best condition, so I'm got my fingers crossed, but I don't know. It may not work out. And here's a pear graft that also is not really doing anything. There's a one maybe bud there, but it doesn't look too hot, so that may be a redo for next year. I have a couple persimmons on here that I grafted. There's one farther down the way there, and there's one here. I won't walk down and show those right now, but those are looking okay. This is one from last year. The graft is almost totally healed over. It's looking pretty good. So I did clip off about half or more of the top growth of that because it was I didn't want it to snap off in the wind. And here, this pecan, I gave it some protection. Now it's got some funky ass leaf problem. Wow, some little leaf galls or something. Great. Poor thing, can't get a break. And there's a groundnut scampering up. So I won't go into exhaustive detail today. This video is probably going to be long enough already. The rain barrels are full again. I actually think I did basically dump those out. So that's a great amount of rain. Over here, this apple finally could grow a few leaves because I got the cage around it. My variegated drought nut back there is not out of its cage yet. And this tall pear here got its top half clipped off this year too. That damn graft is still not healed over, so I'm not going to show that. I did a couple more chestnut grafts back here in this former chestnut coppice area, but I haven't really looked to see if they're growing yet, and I don't want to waste your time investigating. There's one over there and there's one farther down the way. Yeah, if you look around and see all the flowers forming on these sumacs, I mean they're flowering even at waist height, so that's pretty impressive. Not a lot of plants will flower at that kind of height to me. So those are going to be happening anytime. And here's the sort of wild blackberries, and they're coloring up, but they're not black yet. So probably in another week or less, that one's, getting some color to it. Used to be a hell of a stand. There's probably an acre of these blackberries here when I first got this place. But then the neighbor who owned the adjacent property wanted to have more yard than like the wild look, I guess. So they mowed all the shit down. Now it's just grass. So that's kind of a waste, but you can't, nothing you can do about whatever your neighbors decide to do with their property. This hazelnut, last year was kind of the first year it had any nuts. And these are older bushes. These have been here for 10 years at least. But this year it's pretty well loaded down. So that is cool to see. I don't remember the nuts being anything spectacular, but excuse me. Nonetheless, it's cool to see any bush that's producing a lot. This one's got a pretty good amount, but not bending over like the other one. There's a real sad serviceberry with a shot full of cedar apple rust. I probably pointed that out in the last video. Here's a Japanese walnut leaning out away from this autumn olive. We gotta chop that autumn olive down, give that thing some breathing room. Here's a walnut. I would say that within the next year or so, I would hope that these walnuts might start flowering and fruiting. Those are probably planted in 2012. Sorry for the smoker's throat here. I don't know what's going on. Didn't bring any water. So here's a rosinweed that the deer keep munching. So it's interesting, on certain paths they will kind of obliterate those, and then in other areas they don't touch them really. So I don't think I'm going to walk over to all that crap. There's not much to see. There's some rosinweed and some oaks that aren't doing very much. I will walk over here into the Persimmonville. This little pond was totally empty. Now it's got a pretty good amount of water in it, just from the rain. But I did some grafting. I did probably a dozen persimmon grafts this spring, and I came by yesterday or the day before and started clipping off some of the undergrowth, things that were growing below the graft. So here's a little tentative graft of Morris Burton, which is a famous old variety. And then I wanted to show, my friend Gary Wilburn had some old pear trees. Oh, here we go. At his farm that had been there for ages and ages that he wanted to save. So this is a pear graft. Yeah, it looks like a couple buds are growing. That's good. A wild calorie growing back here. So he is concerned that these trees might not live much longer. So we took some scions in the late winter and I grafted a couple of seedlings at his place. This is a graft of 100-45 whip and tongue. Here we are. And that's growing pretty good. Looks like something, maybe groundnut or some, yeah, groundnut vine growing on it. So I'm not going to show every graft, but I saw some positive growth on most of them, I would say. So that's encouraging. And there's a lot more grafting candidates for next year. I'm going to have to try to order more signwood next year. And so I have enough wood to graft a lot of these, because I've got trees every few feet. I mean, there's probably every 5 to 8 feet, depending. Back here, it's not on a very regular pattern. It's a bit random. And then also there are root sprouts coming out from some of the older ones. So it gets a little bit confusing, but anyway, I can pick and choose plants to graft onto, and you can see it here in different places. I've dumped my lawn clippings, or I've put logs, or there's a lot of debris, woody debris on the ground. You have to tread carefully in these wild areas because you never know where there could be a ground bee nest. And if you're not really paying attention to the ground, it's easy to step on one, and then that's a real thrill because they will let you know right away your error. That's a graft from this year. That is Yates. Yeah, Yates. And they're, I feel bad they're kind of crunched up in these little tree tubes, but I'll give that a cage next year once it starts growing out of the tree tube. Now, luckily, persimmons are not like the most choice browse of deer, so they're not hit as hard as like chestnuts or some other species are, but they still will browse about anything. This is nice, attractive growth on an oak tree. That's a low tannin oak from Oikos. So yeah, a lot of these young persimmons, they've got sort of a floppy growth habit. They're not growing like a straight leader. They're kind of growing really horizontally. Here's a graft from last year, if I can focus on it. This has grown well, and I can't remember, but I did clip most of the top growth of this off too because it was going to be so top heavy and I did not want to lose it. But it grew like gangbusters last year, so I'm really excited about that one. This one, that's just a decoy there of a dead leaf. This is a graft that's growing. And does it have a tag? Don't tell me I didn't put a damn tag. What? Usually I've got one on the tree and I've got one on a flag somewhere, but I don't see either thing here. God damn. I probably hope I made a note of that somewhere because that is a graft. Okay, well, I'll show you a couple of persimmon trees that do have fruits hanging on them for sure, at least at this date. And that is so exciting. It's hard to convey how exciting that is. So look at those little beauties there. That's how big they are right now. And some persimmons, they'll never get bigger than like what you see right here. That's like the final size. But I'm hopeful, or fingers crossed, these will get a little larger, maybe golf ball size or larger. I mean, they're not going to ever be baseball size or something like an Asian persimmon. But they could potentially, be 1.5 inches, 2 inches, potentially. That's probably not real likely with my poor soil and everything. But it's not out of the realm of possibilities. They've got really attractive, glossy, dark leaves, and they kind of fold their leaves up sometimes maybe to conserve moisture. And there's another one over here that's also got fruit over here. So I'll show these and then we'll kind of wind it back up. You can see there's a lot of nitrogen fixer seedlings. These are false indigo that have seeded out into the area over time. Hazelnuts that are seeding out into the area. So this is a graft from last year. That's Dennis Straley's Sweet Seedy Surprise. Then the mother plant that I grafted onto is these little guys here. So that's how big that is. And again, I don't know how big these will ultimately get, but it's really exciting to see anything. You know, I'd be happy with whatever. It's a thrill to wait for so many years and then see something finally fruiting. I think a lot of persimmons get these black leaf spots. I don't know what that's all about, but it doesn't seem to really kill them. It seems more cosmetic than anything. Probably hampers photosynthesis a little bit. This is a graft I did not think was going to make it. This I think was just maybe a whip graft. I don't even know if it was a tongue. But this is H63A, and it's putting on some growth. I don't know if the crinkled leaves are a bug problem. There's something called like a persimmon psyllid, I don't know how you pronounce the word, that may attack these. That's probably a root sprout of another, maybe from this one here, or this one here. But yeah, we're kind of at the northern extent of Persimmonville here. And other stuff to show. This hedgerow is not too impressive. There are a few hazels that have a good crop. There's a few grafts of Gumianta autumn olive that I've done that are growing okay. Like, look at the crop on that. Damn, that thing's pretty well loaded down. So that's exciting. There's rosin weed in the mix here. Autumn olive. Look at my nice soil here. Between the moles and the deer, you know, we've had 5 inches rain, but it can still get pretty powdery pretty quick. And there's not a lot of humus, there's not a lot of organic matter. You go down a few inches and it's just like yellow sand. There's not much to recommend this soil other than that it's easy to dig holes in. That's probably its best feature. You don't need a pickaxe, and you don't need a saw to get through tree roots. It's pretty easy digging. So you can plant a tree pretty quickly. That's the best thing I can say about it. And you know, if you do get a lot of rain, it's excessively well drained. Here's a hazel that's got a pretty good crop on it. You can see the old branches will start bending over. That one is already almost touching the ground. So yeah, I think all this rain we've had, and then also it's been kind of an early season. Things are maturing a week or two earlier than normal, like those ripe apples. I would not have expected to see those this early. There's some nice bird song going on. Some big blue stem here in the mid ground. And here's a bunch of downy sunflower that's about to be in flower. So you see they've got multiple heads sometimes. There's none, I don't think any of them are open yet. There's some brown-eyed Susan. And here's a little hazelnut that's producing even in this little runt size. That looks like a hybrid for sure because the nuts look a little different than the American. Looks like a little katydid or something on there. Yeah, I don't remember this one fruiting before, so this must be one of maybe the New Forest Farm hybrids. And they will produce at a pretty small size, but you see that husk being so open, that kind of leaves it vulnerable to bug attack. And so I tend to get more bug problems with those and more you know, stink bugs and things. And this one is kind of half open. This is more typical American. And sometimes the American ones, the husk is totally encloses the nut. You don't see any nut showing through until it's quite ripe, and it kind of opens up. I guess I missed my little grafts of Gumianta autumn olive, but there were some around this hedgerow. So yeah, it's a beautiful evening. It's only about 72 degrees. It's perfect, beautiful weather. Things are good. The garden doesn't usually look this good, so I'd encourage anybody who's local, please come check it out. I don't have to be here. Enjoy, pick a few flowers if you want to. Stop and admire the bees. Check the plants out, see how things are growing. See what you might want to dig up and move to your garden. Can I interest you in some Monarda by chance? But yeah, it looks pretty good this time of year. So I am thankful. We've done a lot better with the weather this year than some other people have. I feel sad for my friends who are going through droughts or huge floods. You know, you never know what any year is going to bring. We've certainly had some droughts here, and I think we've got more coming in the future, and possibly some wildfires and ice storms and tornadoes and God knows what else. So, you know, you've got to enjoy these nice moments when they happen, because none of it is guaranteed. None of it is necessarily going to be there next year. My Vigoro grape is also fruiting really well. I should have put bags around these. And the leaves all look yellow. That looks kind of bad. Maybe too much rain. And I think grapes like it drier. So yeah, this mature hedgerow is pretty well filled in. It's quite thick. It's about 15 feet deep or thick, you know, in cross section. These long husks are more typical of American hazelnut. So yeah, I will sign off, but thanks for watching, and oh, check out the dogbane beetle if you can see it, if we can focus. Come on, there we go. Beautiful little iridescent beauties that you see on and around dogbane. That's on, looks like it's on timothy grass right now, but yeah, dogbane's this stuff that looks kind of like milkweed. Sorry for the focus. Come on, focus. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Enjoy the summer. Bye.